Hi, I'm Susan Latai, and today I am here with Lisa Medley, co-author of our book, to be released soon, Shining a Light on Grief. Welcome, Lisa. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Susan. So great to be in this place of bringing this book to life.
Yes, thank you. So first, can you give us a brief description of your chapter titled The Year of Dad?
Yes, the year of dad in 2014 to 15, from June to the following June, was an experience of really ushering my dad through time in hospital with heart surgery, and then leading to hospice and having that experience, which was also new for me. And then a part 3 called House, or cleaning out his house, which was like a 9-month process of commuting from Rhode Island to New York. It really just became my life. And I'm really happy to share my story.
Yes, and I'm glad you did.
Yes.
Is all the stories, all the chapters are unique and to the individual. So, and they're all different grief losses. So having, you sharing losing a parent, I think is important to have included
Yeah.
in the book. So,
I really appreciate the choice of that range, right? Because not everybody will experience every kind of grief that's offered, depending on, some people lose children and some people don't lose children, but that certainly has a place, if you've had that experience. That's a very unique experience. And I think overall, just feeling not alone,
right.
not alone.
Yeah, that's important. And with that said, why did you decide to participate in that book? When I called and said, Lisa, what do you think?
Yeah, grief. Oh, yay.
Not a light subject.
Yeah. Well, as a intuitive, sensitive being, I really trust my gut. I trust my heart. I just know what that like yes and no feels like. And it was just a yes. It was a quality of yes, of not like, hey, do you want to go out dancing or you want to go sing karaoke? Like that's a different kind of feeling.
Right.
And it just felt like this very the image I'm getting is just like this really old, strong tree, that just is like has a lot of depth and groundedness, and the kind of tree that you can just sit under and just feel held and supported. And that's just kind of what I was feeling like. This is important. This is a really important topic, and that it needs more voice. It needs more of a voice in our culture. There's some cultures that do grief and death really well, it meaning that there's rituals and there's processes and celebrations, and like the framework, the environment like supports somebody to really go through it.
Mm.
Not that it's ever over. And my experience in this first world country is not that. I mean, it's kind of all over the place, with other deaths that I've experienced in my life. And just in general, we just need to be able to have more of a voice of experiences that personal and universal. It's so deeply personal. I mean, there were so many times like early on where I was like, I'm the only person this has ever happened to. Like, that's what it felt like, And I know that that's not true,
Right.
but it felt like I'm like alone in my experience. And again, intellectually, I know that that's not true. And it's just this interesting like paradox,
Mm.
that it is so personal, and only you know what it is for you and what you need and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. You know, it's definitely not a one size fits all.
No,
And
definitely not.
everybody goes through it. Everybody, you know, that quality of pain, that heartbreak, you know, those moments where you feel like you're not going to get to the next breath.
Hmm.
Everybody knows what that feels like at some point when you lose somebody that you die. And it might be a pet too, you know, like
Right. Yes.
that kind of pain is very relatable, and we just need more support for that, and to honor the pain that we feel just from, you know, a well-being perspective, which is my professional world that I live in. You know, we need support to heal through it and not just like get over it.
Right. Right. And I think, yes, in our culture, it's like, oh, just get over it, just move on. Just, oh, it's been that long. Oh, really? You know, like in we know, right, that grief isn't linear. There's no set time limit on, you know, when you're done grieving. It becomes part of your life. And it comes in and out as it chooses. Right? Because
Yeah.
there's no predictability of it whatsoever.
Yes. And, you know, just to follow on that phrase that you said, that's one of the mm, what's qualities and yeah, it's really like, I guess, a metaphor that came to me of just like grief is like a wild animal that comes and goes as it pleases.
Yeah.
Like when I was just trying to, you know, find words as I am in this moment of like really moving to a place of deep respect for grief,
Mm,
that
yes.
it it's its own entity. You know, it's a very different, unique feeling quality, you know, on our emotional scale.
Right.
And it would just, I just over time, you know, even after, you know, the first year, the second year, the third year, you know, it's been almost 7 years, where it would just show up like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And at times it would just like literally, it was like it happened yesterday, even though on the time on the calendar, it had been years. And just, I would continue to be reminded and humbled to like, okay, you know, and just like, you know, this wild animal would just come and it would just sit and it would take place in my life, in my heart.
Mhm.
And I would just have to, you know, respect whatever process needed to come through.
Right.
And then when it left, I would be like, I could feel, you know, that difference. And I think like befriending it that way was, it continues to be very helpful. I mean, certainly in the moment, I can be completely caught off guard and I can go through the same, you know, human, like, wait, what? You know, like
Right.
this again? And I just create a little more space and allowance for that process,
Mm,
because
yeah.
it's kind of like, it's not in my control, even though it's my experience. It's coming from me, like something triggers in me or something just
Mhm.
is
Right.
getting activated. It's an inside out process. And yet it almost feels like it's something that's coming through me sometimes, of just like, okay, let me just get out of the way, let it take its course,
Mhm.
and then move on to the next phase or moment.
Right. And allowing, I think, just allowing whatever it is to process through and not judge it or change it or stuff it down or, you know, ignore it, to embrace it and go, okay, this is where I am again. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. And
okay.
that like non-judgment, like
Mm,
compassionate,
right.
even kind,
Right.
like
Right.
even just acknowledging its presence, you know, if like
Yeah.
befriending or embracing is just like too much, depending on, you know, those that are listening, like where you are in your process.
Right.
is
Right.
like too far of a reach. Just acknowledging that it exists, it's real, it's natural,
Mhm.
it's normal, it's human. It's,
Right.
I think, one of the most difficult things about being human. It's, it just, I don't think it gets much worse. I
Yes.
mean, there's lots of things that happen in our lives that are very challenging.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that, it's excruciating. It's just
Yeah.
an excruciating pain. And nobody wants to go through it, and we all do. And just acknowledging that it is part of it. And, you know, excuse me, a lot of what I allowed myself and continue to,
Mhm.
is just allowing that process, as you said, that process to just move through me in whatever way that's going to be. And the more that I can feel and like acknowledge that grief is there and feel through it and just allow that pain, that intensity, it's definitely lessened over time. I mean, that
Mhm.
does help, that does matter. And I wrote, in my chapter, that I would write that with like a caveat. Time does heal, and you have to feel your way through
Yeah.
in whatever timeline that is, and whatever
Mhm.
support you have. That's really, really
Right.
key, to have that support so you can go there. You can go into whatever those feelings are, because sometimes it can be really complicated too. You can be
Absolutely.
feeling the loss, and then you can be angry and disappointed, and it can get really, really muddy. So it's really important to have support in all kinds of different ways if you need
Absolutely.
that.
Yes, absolutely. And you'll have to pick up the book to learn more about Lisa's story. So, lastly, what would you like to share with our audience about you, about business, about how you're being of service in the world? What would you like to share?
Thank you for that opportunity. And you can certainly, I sprinkle this throughout the chapter of really self-care is one way that I can talk about what I do. And even more specifically is really more body-centered awareness,
Hmm.
and, really bridging, our body and its wisdom in our feelings and our emotions and our sensations. It's this whole gold mine of wisdom, of information that really guides us to like what's most aligned with you. Because I'm going to move through grief with my father in whatever way that is. When I lose other people in my life, it could be a completely different experience, quality,
Yes.
and along the way, my body and your body is going to guide you as to just like, it's just like this alignment, what's best for you. And unfortunately, also like grief, we haven't been supported in, I would say, globally. I don't think it's just culturally,
Right.
to just tune in to how are you feeling and what do you need? How are you feeling? What do you need?
Yeah.
And so part of what I do is just help to decode that, and, just increase awareness of body wisdom so that you can feel more comfortable in it.
Right.
Just comfortable, feel safe, more stable, more
Mhm.
trusting of what you're feeling and what you need.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Susan.
And I look forward to that book being out and where it's going to take us and
Yeah.
hopefully help many people out there at the same
Yes. Thank you for your vision.
time. Yes. Yes, definitely guided.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Susan.